Welcome back to the nighttime hour of Ceiling Fan Rescue. So what I've got here today is the second of the 3 Casablanca fans that came from Ventnor City, New Jersey. This one is pretty similar to the first one I recorded, being another polished brass and antique white Casablanca Panama 5. Although with this one I decided to change up the look a bit and give it more of a plain look to it. These blades are from a 1985 all-white Casablanca Panama that I got a few months ago. So I thought it'd be cool to swap the blades on them so that that one could have cane blades and this one would be plain. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I actually really do. There's something about these older Panamas that I do really like. Let's get a shot of the tag. This one is from May 8th, 1984. What's interesting is that all 4 of them have different date codes on them, so I wondered if they were all bought towards the very end or maybe the very start of 1985, but they were all sort of sitting around in a showroom or something. For reference, the other Panama that had the light was from December of '84. It's the tiny spiral down rod. And this one was a little bit dirty when I got it, but I've since completely internally cleaned everything because I had to do a bearing replacement on this one because the bearings in this one were a lot worse than the first Panama I recorded. And before I turn it on, this is another one of those early Inteli-Touch fans where as soon as you turn the power on, the fan starts cycling through the speeds. So, oops. Okay, there we go. I guess there's no reason it wouldn't start on speed 1 when I first turned on, but it sounded like the speed 2 beep for me for some reason, so that's why I restarted the cycle. So the good news is that the RMM1 Inteli-Touch system seems to still work flawlessly, but the only weird thing is that when you turn the fan off, something with the beeper, maybe that specific frequency is just weird because it kind of makes that more like shrill noise, but it still works. So this is speed 1. I should mention that the Inteli-Touch system in the Zephyr, it's like still kind of works, but it's very much on its last leg, so I'm probably going to convert it to a newer Inteli-Touch system before I video that one, so that's why I'm doing this one first. Speed 1 does work, it just is quite slow. I think about here is where the full speed of it is. Yeah, with these kind of fans, even when they're kind of basic, I always seem to like them a lot more when they're fully installed and clean and properly working. At least more than I think I will. This one's probably going to be for sale, just because I do have the other one that's basically identical. And it's hard to get rid of ones that you like, but otherwise you become a hoarder, so you do have to get rid of some stuff, unfortunately. Speed 2. And unless you're rich, then you need to keep the budget in balance. Because the money to get all of these fans doesn't come from nowhere. One interesting thing about this fan is that the flywheel on it is a bit different compared to most other ones. I don't know if it's officially called Silent Flex, but it looks like a Silent Flex flywheel. If you don't know what that is, it was the flywheels that Casablanca started to use as soon as they got K55 fans, I believe, in 1980, and it lasted until 1984. So since this one is from 1985, I guess they tried to see if they could make a different one. And before they landed on their final design with a sort of a thinner flywheel that I'm not sure if it had an official name, but it works fine just as well, except for 89, but everyone knows about that. It's just like very thick, but without the spokes kind of jutting out of the bottom, if that makes sense. And I think this fan must have been used on high a lot. Most Casablanca fans start from low, but really with Inteli-Touch fans, if you have the control save the speed, it can just start from high every time. But the spokes for it, instead of being all the way upward like this, they started to sort of like curve. Three. And sometimes that can be a problem if the rubber arms start to crack. But there was no cracking on this one, so I guess just very, very gradually over time, it just started to warp. I don't know if I mentioned this in the other video where I had a Panama that was extremely similar to this with the speed starting immediately as soon as you turn power on, but that pretty much gets rid of like demo mode or any of the other like special button combinations. Which on this one, it's just kind of whatever because there's no light anyways. The only thing you'd really be missing out on if you were using this in like a permanent install would be fan minder, but I don't think I've ever actually used that, but that's mostly just because I keep like great attention on the fans that I'm using. And I always know if one is like on or off or whatever, but most people wouldn't, so. Okay. Let's go to 4. That's where we start to get some good air. Blade situation is kind of weird for the all antique white Panama that these blades came from because one of the blade arms was very severely cracked, so I couldn't use it, and I literally was able to break it apart in my hands. So now that only has 4 blades, but I don't know why, but antique white irons are just not that easy to come by, I guess. At least not that I've been able to find. So while I was waiting for that, I decided to just use it on this one. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I kept trying to think, but I couldn't remember. So the whole Inteli-Touch control situation for this, I don't think it was explained in the last video, but this came with 3 controls. I don't know which ones went to each fan because they were all separated and removed by the time that Matt picked them up. But the gist of it, oh, maybe that's the pitch that it doesn't like. The gist of it was, one of them was a white W11 from 1992, so that one was clearly a replacement. And that's honestly pretty awesome to have one from that late, because I've only had one other white W11 before that. Then another one was a regular black one. It was completely dead, did not work at all, no signal was sent to the fan whatsoever. And then there was a second black one where Matt found out that the fan button worked, but the light button did not respond at all, which I've never heard of that happening before. Usually if one part of it goes, then all of it goes. But it's like, oh, that's weird. But anyways, I tested this fan out, like bench testing it, with that control, and it worked just fine. But as soon as I did the bearing replacement and put this together, the next day, that control just completely did not work. What's weird is that it would still stop the fan from its initial like startup cycling through the speeds, but you couldn't do anything with it after that. You couldn't turn the fan off, you couldn't go further up through the speeds, like nothing. So I don't know what's causing that, but I'm going to send it off for repair, so maybe another collector can find out what's wrong with it. And speed 6. There's also no LDM in the switch housing in this one whatsoever, so this is kind of permanently a no light fan unless you really feel like buying one used and putting one in there for however much money that would cost. It's doing very well, and the sound of no bearing noise is pretty awesome. It's even shaking the lamp below it. Yeah, these things are awesome. Early Panamas are definitely in my at least top 10 for Casablanca models. This isn't even the earliest variant. The earliest ones had both like 4 Seasons irons and Zephyr irons, which would be crazy to find one of those, but the irons that this one has and that they continue to use definitely looks very proportional, so it's good that they have those. Need a top shot before I turn it off. Okay. I could show off reverse, it does work, but this video I think has gone on for longer than they usually do, so go ahead and turn it off. Oh hey, didn't make a weird sound that time. But anyways, there you go. The second Casablanca Panama 5 from 1984. Thanks for watching Restored Ceiling Fan Spin.